Space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the metal attacker Gaia-Sophia. Its urgent mission, to explore strange new worlds, to seek out planet Sophia and the cure to the mutant infestation, to boldly go where no Blaster Master has gone before. On March 20th, 2019, Nintendo held their Nindy Spring Showcase Direct to give Nintendo Switch owners a sneak peek into the indie games coming to the system in the near future. Being an indie developer with strong ties to Nintendo themselves, there were some rumblings that Inti Creates may have something to show. Was it more Azure Striker Gunvolt news, or something else? But I don't think Inti fans were quite prepared for what was about to go down.
Next up, check out the newest game from our friends at Inti Creates.
Love those guys.
Inti Creates and Sunsoft present the long-awaited sequel to the mutant blasting action-adventure game, Blaster Master Zero, is coming to Nintendo Switch.
Holy melons! In what is quite possibly one of the most exciting shadow drops I have ever experienced in my entire life, Inti Creates revealed that not only is there a sequel to that awesome Blaster Master reboot, but it is out today! To this day, it is still mind-blowing to me that they developed a full sequel and managed to keep it a secret with no leaks beforehand to my knowledge. What a shock! As you all know by now, I was a big fan of the first Blaster Master Zero. That means I was so hyped for this announcement that you want to know the first thing I did? Played the darn game, of course! I also just had to gush about it in video form here on this YouTube channel. However, I was sick at the time, so I had to ask TGP to narrate it instead.
I know ShadowRock couldn't believe in himself. He even had to convince himself it wasn't a dream at one point after a nap. Very epic.
Welcome to part 2 of ShadowRockZX's Blaster Master Zero Series Retrospective, where we are blasting off to outer space, the final frontier, in Inti Creates' second side-view action and top-down dungeon hybrid mutant blasting adventure. That was a mouthful. And oh yeah, get the blast counter ready, folks. If you missed part 1 where we covered the series' origins, the original Famicom and NES games, and BMZ1 itself, we recommend checking that one out first to get up to speed. One of the best things about BMZ2 is this is the moment Inti Creates truly broke free from the shackles of being a remake. So they were now able to take the series in any direction they chose. For better or worse. But that does mean we don't have to spend the better part of an hour making comparisons to an 80s game. Hooray! Don't you worry though, BMZ2 still has its fair share of callbacks, which we will cover as they come. And of course, we will be using that ginormous lore dump that was provided by Inti Creates back in 2019 for BMZ2 as a reference, which you can read up on yourself through the link in the description below. On that note, just like last time, we will have another spoiler section at the end of this video. So, if you have not experienced BMZ2 for yourself yet, you have been warned. Oh, and since this game does pick up right where BMZ1 left off, I will do my best to speak in vague terms, but spoilers for the end of BMZ1 are going to be unavoidable here. Watch at your own risk. Don't make me get Shia LaBeouf to tell you to buy the game again.
No! What are you waiting for? Do it!
Thank you, Shia. Strap in, because here we go. The sequel to Blaster Master Zero had already been planned before development of the first wrapped up, which is why BMZ1 ended the way it did. But before planning truly got underway, Inti president Takua Aizu told the development team to think of a letter to use instead of two. Eventually, it was decided to call it Blaster Master Zero G, and various elements were planned to explain the G, such as Gaia, Gravity, Galaxy, Grotesque, and so on. However, it wasn't long before Aizu basically said, just kidding guys, we need to make it a 2 because it is a direct sequel. This reversal of fate, if you will, left the development team with some complicated feelings, quote unquote. Thanks to that little detour though, if you ever wonder why many things in BMC2 incorporate the letter G, there's your answer. Our story picks up right after the events of the true ending of BMZ1. Jason was able to rescue Eve from the mutant core before blasting it sky high. However, as a result of being in direct contact, a parasite had infected her during the battle. These cells corrupted her body into the form we see in her key art. The corrupted parts being inspired by a character from Inti's very first video game as a company, Speed Power Gunbike. I guess you could say Inti likes guns. Also, holy kittens! Eve is much thicker now than she was before. Sheesh, that parasite sure knew what it was doing. But at least she does get a giant kitty paw in the form of the I Higgs assistant unit out of the deal. That cat motif all the way from the first game is really coming together. Jason searched everywhere on Earth for a cure to no avail, and ended up running Sophia Zero ragged in the process. As of great power comes major energy consumption. Soon after, he hit upon the idea to go on an interplanetary voyage to Eve's home planet, Sophia. A cure must exist there. After all, they were able to fight off the mutants, and they were even the ones that created the metal attackers. Maybe they know something. Here come the G's as they built the first Earth-developed metal attacker. A tank much better suited for space travel than Sophia Zero would have been. Earth MA001, Gaia-Sophia, or G-Sophia for short. A new space-ready battlesuit was also crafted for Jason, featuring a stylish cape, and hair flowing out the back like a certain NetNavi that I know. With the new gear in tow, Jason, Eve, and the good froggy Fred hopped aboard G-Sophia and blasted off to the stars. Gaia-Sophia's namesake is derived from its own Gaia system, which allows G-Sophia to recover SP from the impact of a great fall, or when taking damage, encouraging more frequent usage of special weapons since you have an organic way of recharging, which the uneven terrain in the alien worlds of BMZ2 complements nicely. BMZ2 introduces both new and upgraded types of sub-weapons too, like Spark Tackle being upgraded to a Burn Tackle that is a blazing fast speedrunner's tool. Main cannon mods now exist too, that entirely change how your main gun works. From
heavy machine gun
to
armor piercer.
Be careful however, as they consume SP too, and G-Sophia penalizes you more than Sophia 3 did when your SP is depleted, shutting down G-Sophia systems and rendering you super weak in a fight until your entire SP gauge tops off again. That wait time is increased further once you begin collecting SP capacity upgrades too. That's why I find myself not using the main weapon mods as much, because I would rather conserve the SP for the sub-weapons. Made me wish main weapons would either not use SP or be separated. Something BMZ3 is going to fix, thankfully. Still, the Gaia system is a streamlined improvement for SP management that sure beats merely grinding for SP items all the time. Jason has some new tricks up his sleeve for the top-down dungeons too. If you thought he moved too slow in BMZ1, you'll be happy to find that his movement speed has been increased to allow for faster paced gameplay. He actually breaks into a jogging animation now too, and I'm loving the increased production value in the visuals and how cool Jason's new suit looks. Further picking up the pace, the highlight among Jason's new abilities is the new blast counter mechanic. No, not that blast counter mechanic. I mean the new sub-weapon type that consumes counterpoints. Practically every enemy in the game can be countered upon launching an attack, allowing Jason to strike back with long-range blasts, close-range stabs, or reflect projectiles. Enemy behavior is designed with blast countering in mind, so you will want to master it as it really helps Jason get out of sticky situations and deal big damage back. Thankfully, once you get it down, it is simple but fun to use, and elevates the fast-paced action. Just press the counter button when you see the visual tell on your target. I'm usually not big on counter systems in games, but BMZ 2 has one of my favorite implemented ones next to Mega Man Battle Network or Star Force. It just felt second nature to me once I incorporated it into my playstyle. The only real nitpick I can make against it is that you have to manually select which type of blast counter you want to use, since not all types fit every situation, and once again there are enemy weaknesses to exploit. But you can add that to the list of things that BMZ 3 will fix. The other significant change to Jason is his G-Rifle. The gun level system works the same as before. Taking damage cuts off access to guns unless the energy guard is active, which the energy guard is cool and all, but the gun level system itself is starting to outstay its welcome a bit at this point. However, the sizable change comes with the guns themselves. Most notably, the former destroyer of worlds, the level 8 wave shot, has seen a nerf since BMZ 1. It's still considered the most powerful weapon, but spamming it will decrease its potency over time, so you cannot get complacent with it. Not only does it fix BMZ 1's most common criticism by making the difficulty more fair and balanced, but it allows the other guns to shine too, of which there are a few new variations, like a whip, which isn't the best, but it's still a melee option, and it can combo with electricity-based weapons to create that obligatory gunvolt reference. We also got remixes on old guns like the
Shotgun!
as well as
Enemy Chaser!
and
Not a charge shot!
the level 0 pea shooter no longer exists either, meaning your shot can reach across the entire screen by default. Nice. Of course, standard sub-weapons return too. Aside from the usual,
Grenade!
one of my favorite additions is the elemental sub-weapons, like
Firebomb!
or the electric and ice versions, which can add those elemental properties to some of your G-Rifle guns to create new types of attacks and combos, somewhat similar to Mega Man Zero's elements and EX skills. In the late game, Jason will also acquire the XL Charger, that essentially puts his suit into overdrive, increasing the power of all of his abilities across the board. XL Charger will play a larger role in the next game too. Applying to both Jason and Gaia-Sophia, another quality of life improvement comes with the ability to assign weapons to the shoulder buttons, cutting down on the time you have to spend swapping your loadout. Very epic. Last but not least, our supporting cast. Fred the Frog is here to help out too, using his wormhole ability to warp Jason outside of dungeons once his business is finished, or teleporting him back to Gaia-Sophia on side view maps. Oh, that's a good boy! Furthermore, MTR useless dungeons are now a thing of the past, as every single nook and cranny is now worth exploring for 100% completion. That is still required for the true ending, by the way. So that is 2 complaints right there that I had with BMZ 1 knocked out with one blast. Even though she is very sick, Eve's optional weapon advice dialogue returns from BMZ 1 as well, and the banter between the couple is fun as always. There's even a Copen and Shovel Knight reference in there to go with the Gunvolt reference from the last game. Overall, this is a very welcome, smart set of balance adjustments that keep combat from becoming a mind-numbing experience. And the new additions add another layer of strategy for that extra spice. Along their galaxy-spanning voyage, our heroes will visit many strange planets in their orbiting planetoids, the latter of which act as side levels with many challenges for important items. Accessing planetoids require maps that are obtained through exploring or defeating bosses. All the levels are presented through a galaxy map that's used as a stage select screen of sorts. This helps alleviate the backtracking issues from BMZ1, since all major areas are now totally isolated from one another. However, there is still a lack of fast travel between checkpoints, meaning you will still have to backtrack to the initial launch pad you started from to exit. So the backtracking pain isn't entirely removed. By the way, just a reminder that the upcoming BMZ3 does address some of these issues I will mention, if the last few times I mentioned it doesn't do anything for you, which speaks to Inti's willingness to listen to and incorporate feedback from players, like we have and will continue to see throughout the series. But for the sake of fairness, we are judging BMZ2 on its own merits. The sequel features 5 major areas, leaving spoilers aside, a noticeable downsize from BMZ1's 8 areas. At first, I felt a little disappointed by that fact, feeling like that the game was shorter. However, thanks to the Planetoids, a few side quests, and extra story bits, BMZ2 actually ended up at a similar length, if not longer than BMZ1, to complete in my own playtesting. It helps that every major planet feels very distinct from each other. They really nailed that alien and otherworldly vibe as well, since we're not on Earth anymore. That same vibe is reflected in the soundtrack, capturing the aura that comes with interstellar travel, and exploring uncharted, exotic worlds while retaining catchy beats. Of course, we still have our fair share of upbeat, actiony, epic, melancholy, and hopeful tracks in there as well. It's a great mix of 8-bit goodness once again from Inti Creates. Do I like this OST over BMZ1's? It's hard to say because I like both for different reasons. 02 being pretty dang wild, and 01 being more straightforward, but still really dang good. But it is true that BMZ2 does contain a couple of my favorite tunes in the series so far, that are worthy additions to my music playlist. What kind of out-of-this-world locations are in store for us this time anyway? In order, and pardon the pronunciations of some of these locations, Planet Vosant features uneven rocky terrain, with floating debris sometimes used as puzzles, against the backdrop of a starry sky. Planet Montage is entirely based on Sunsoft's Icky game, with farmlands that have small key puzzles, tall mountains, and bamboo forests to traverse around. Immigration ship L229 has us dodging attacks from a security robot that's been infected by the mutants. I like its name, Defend Them All! And it makes for an epic larger-than-life tank boss fight, of which tank boss encounters are more prominent here over BMZ1. And yes, they are still among the best bosses in the game. Not that the many top-down bosses are no slouch either, with fun patterns that make good use of the new blast counter mechanic. We even get a literal mountain of a side view and top-down hybrid boss fight with Gather Vira. Bruh. Suffice to say, Inti upped their game in the boss department too, and the best part is, you can't cheese enemies nearly as easily as you could in BMZ1 thanks to the balance tweaks. Obviously, some are still going to be easier than others, but the important thing is it's no longer spam one button to win. Speaking about the regular mutant henchmen, you'll notice that a lot of them have taken on new forms, mostly based on past bosses from BMZ1 like Mother Brain. But there's even an enemy that looks like Sophia 3. How did that happen? Well, when a boss mutant is born, like for example that certain event at the end of BMZ1, the boss mutant transmits his genetic data through superdimensional space to something quote-unquote that acts as the collective consciousness for the mutants where it is arbitrarily integrated. If the data transmission is successful, it will then be universally transmitted to mutants at random, and if a mutant copies that data, they will undergo clone evolution, which explains how old bosses become new regular enemies. Interesting, no? Maybe we'll find out more about that something in BMZ3. Anyway, Planet Stranga is definitely true to its name, being based on the wackiness of Sunsoft's Trip World game. Thanks to the host of flowers, plants, and fauna on display containing poison, all aspects of life including the mutants have been affected, causing effects that are designed to defy your expectations by testing the player through silly events, rather than by pure skill, such as huge mutants, rainbow mutants that take millions of years for Gaia-Sophia to destroy, but go down in one shot to Jason's G-rifle, and mutants disguised as save points and other things. Clever. Even the flowers are extraordinarily weird and hilarious fashion. Some plants will kidnap Gaia-Sophia when Jason isn't looking. And then there is my all-time favorite thing in this entire game. The long leg flowers. Tippy toes, boys! Otherwise, it's essentially a puzzle dungeon involving watering seeds, though I often struggled with the many mid-air water pockets, since Gaia-Sophia can only exit from the top under certain conditions. I also recall getting stuck here on my first playthrough, but it was 100% a me problem. See this flower that looks like a screw? Surely it's part of the background, right? Nope. You gotta use the drill sub-weapon on it to activate things. Heck, the original wielder of the drill smasher even shows us how to use it in the boss fight. Wow, what a concept! Boy, do I wish I wasn't that dumb. Oh, this place is crazy. Then finally we have the fittingly named planet Divido. Get it because it's divided? Split between a desert and a tundra biome by a dimensional rift. Ah yes, a sign of things to come in BMZ 3. Don't get too close to the glowy dimensional rifts though. That is an insta-death trap, the source of many frustrations I've had in the past. But usually you'll be fine if you play cautiously. I do enjoy the half sand, half ice dungeons, and the fact that there's two sides to the planet. That is some genius theming. We also continue to see BMZ 2 leaning towards puzzle solving for its dungeon design, as opposed to BMZ 1's straightforward action all the time approach. Planet Divido, for example, requires you to hit switches to change the flow of quicksand or water. It definitely makes for some more complicated levels that forces the player to use their noggin just a little more over the previous game, making them feel like, well, proper dungeons. I like it. Moving on. Who inhabits these planets and who are these characters you may have seen throughout the video already? You may recall how back in BMZ 1, Eve mentioned Sophia's Metal Attacker project to counteract the mutant threat on the different planets. Using the original Metal Attacker and its pilot as a base, the MA project began in earnest. The first prototype being the upgraded Sophia Zero, which didn't work out at first due to its poor energy efficiency. After its trial run, 4 development teams were created and each were allotted the budget for 2 models. Team Alpha was headed up by the original pilot, Kane Gardner, and the engineer, Jennifer Cornett. They focused on improving the original MA design and developed the orthodox Nora MA-01 Sophia 3 and Nora MA-02 Andrea. Sophia Zero was also completed during their spare time. From there, things began to go off the rails. Team Bravo ignored the interplanetary specification of the project and built tanky MAs with destructive firepower, but incapable of interstellar travel. Nora MA-03 Atom and Nora MA-04, the latter of which remains a mystery for now. Wonder if we'll get to see what MA-04's deal is in BMZ 3. Team Charlie gets even more carefree with their philosophy of, as long as it works and looks pretty, incorporating some of their own tastes into these fashionable designs, resulting in Nora MA-05 Cubico and Nora MA-06 Ear. Team Delta, on the other hand, entirely ignored the part where they were told to make 2 dang tanks, and crafted 1 high-performance flying machine instead, known as Nora MA-07 Garuda. Even though most of the teams proved to be god-awful at following instructions, the new MA models were still deemed mutant blasting ready. And so, all units were dispersed throughout various planets, along with their support droids, in hopes of finding suitable pilots. Who ended up piloting each of the MAs? I'm glad you asked. In the farmlands of Planet Montage, Jason is besieged by the Takayari master Gonbei, the MA pilot of Cubico, and a bona fide farmer and country boy, understandably upset that Jason came in trampling over his crops. Fun fact, if you trample over enough crops in the farmlands, Gonbei will get twice the attack power in his boss fight. Scary. After the misunderstanding is cleared up by Cubico's support droid Tay, we begin to learn more about Gonbei's backstory, which is based heavily off the novelization of Sunsoft's Ikki title. That's IKKI. To sum it up, the villagers had suffered crazy levels of high taxes and years of failed crops that were ravaged by mutants that were referred to as yokai. Since the civilization on this planet is based on an ancient era of Japan that had no technology, when the governor refused to do anything about it, Gonbei and the farmers formed an Ikki, or rebellion, and fought all the way to the governor's office to find that he had been controlled by the main mutant boss of this planet, Zavira. Later on, Tay arrived with Cubico, and since she has a fox motif like the Japanese god of foxes in agriculture, Gonbei believed her to be a deity. In terms of Sunsoft references, Tay is also based on the main heroine from Ikki. Hilariously, she even has a thicker country accent than Gonbei himself. Why? Because Inti thought it would be funny, and there's no getting in the way of their vision. As for their support animal that unfortunately doesn't get that much of a spotlight, it's a bamboo dragonfly named Tappy that is primarily well suited for scouting and reconnaissance. It can even switch to a triple mode at night and turn red. Anyway, Gonbei now had a reason to pilot Cubico to aid in fending off the mutants. However, the casualties continued until it was just Gonbei and Tay left. You can even find a gravesite on a hidden path in the level. Man, that's depressing. With Jason and Eve now on the scene to provide support and spare parts for Cubico, Gonbei declares that the Ikki is not over yet, and he thanks us by providing his mobility data for recoil jump. Yo, what? Wall jumping in my Blaster Master? It's not 100% like Mega Man X, but hey, I'll take it. Wall jumping tanks is one of the most awesome things I've seen yet. Yeehaw! Halfway through our dive into Planet Stranga, literally up in our grill is character designers Yuji Natsume's pride and joy, the MA pilot of the bunny-shaped ear, Kanna. The jokes just write themselves with this one, don't they? Between Kanna and Eve's new body, the fan servicey side of Inti, who by the way is responsible for Galgun, is really starting to show themselves in this game. What kind of grand vision did Natsume-san have for this character anyway? I thought I would try to grow a new instinct, fetish, for mankind. Huh. Well, what do you think, Matt Papa? Did he succeed in his mission?
Basically, I can tell you that our character designer's vision for Kanna definitely came true.
Thanks, Matt. Alright. That's enough melon memes for now. Let's actually get serious for a moment, as serious as you can get with this design anyway, and discuss the other aspects of this great vision. So our new instinct for mankind here is based on the Flower of Peace from Sunsoft's Trip World game. Yeah, I'm talking about that flower on top of her head. That is her true form. The rest of her head and body is basically just the flower pot, although she can still swap out plants and detach her head. Very Stranga, as is the name of this place. Where there is Kanna, her support droid Kenwood is not far behind, who is not a reference to any Sunsoft property. However, he does keep the all support droids must take after an animal rule, like Eve's kitten and Tay's fox before him, this time sporting the goat motif. He also possesses the choker necklace that's used for the self-destruct sequence of the MA, like all the support droids. Well, that's pretty morbid. As well as a headset and a tail-like connector. As for the backstory, since Ear could not leave the planet's atmosphere, Kenwood had actually been stuck for the equivalent of 20 years on Stranga, since space and time works differently from planet to planet. Before he finally found Kanna, who was the only intelligent life on the planet that could fulfill Ear's destiny. Boy, what patience that must have taken. They are accompanied by the charming support animal Yakubu, that appears to hit it off with Fred right away. Anyway, Kanna and Kenwood's whole dynamic is the bubbly mess of a flower princess and her polite butler that acts as her straight man. I actually like Kenwood a lot, but Kanna? She's like one of those dumb blonde stereotypes that so totally gets on your nerves so quickly. It's amusing at first, but then it gets to the point where it's like, okay, really now? And yeah, both her Japanese voice in the upcoming Japan exclusive BMZ trilogy, and the English voice given to her by Christina V, whom we may know best for roles like Shantae, definitely fits their vision.
So I know this is absolutely bonkers, but your girl Kanna, that's me, has her own minigame in, what's it called? Blaster Master 02!
Of course Kanna is the only BMZ character to receive an English dub so far. At least the Ear boss fight is neat. That MA is really quick. After clearing our names from another misunderstanding, Kenwood gives us access to the Drill Smasher. Oh come on now, Inti, that's named though. We get it, man. Nevertheless, combined with recoil jump, it's a very useful sub-weapon for ground coverage and smashing through walls. Much like Planet Divido features two polar opposite halves, our next MA team is made up of an old man and child girl duo. Stein, the demi-human engineer and MA pilot of Adam, using, pardon the pronunciation, Zukezemon, or Skazemon, the spooky ghost with the shades, from Sunsoft's Hyperweek title as a base. And then there's little Tesset with the train conductor and Skylark motif, based on Tessay from Waku Waku 7, along with their support stuffed animal? That's right, it's a teddy bear named Mr. Mug, to complete the cup references across the trio, like Beer Mug and Tea Set. I gotta say, Stein might be my favorite of the three pilots that we looked at so far. A tough guy with a chill attitude once you get to know him. And being based on a trained engineer, he's also great with machines. But not so much the software side of things. That's Tesset's job. His body is infused with energy crystals known as Sophenium, the same materials used to power metal attackers. So he can literally recharge his MA whenever he wants. And he does it like this! Well, bam! Slam that crystal in there! So cool. Tesset is cute too, and you can tell the pair really cares about each other. Sort of like a parent and child relationship. That's sweet. It's just too bad that, like a lot of characters in this game, Tesset and Mr. Mug don't get to do a whole lot on screen in their scenario. Stein equips us with his full acceleration blast. Just as powerful as the original, but now we can move with it and charge it ourselves. Awesome. Well, I saved the most interesting new MA pilot for last. The main rival for Jason, whom we're attacked by as our adventure enters the late stages. Enter Leibniz, the MA pilot of Garuda. This guy is the polar opposite of Jason in every way, mostly by the fact that he is a huge jerk. What's more, while Leibniz is not based on any Sunsoft property, well, he actually kind of is, because his base design was taken from an unused design for BMZ-1 Jason. In other words, he's the perfect rival. Even his backstory draws parallels with Jason's. A mentally broken man that has lost his partner Lucia, whose name is taken from the main character of Sunsoft's Wing of Medulla. after the mutants destroyed their home planet. As part of Leibniz's coping mechanism, he often refers to Eve and the other support droids as dolls to be thrown away. After losing his support droid, whose self-destruct choker is still hung around his neck, as a very morbid memento of sorts considering what it's for. After meeting Leibniz in person, Jason comments that he may have even turned out to like Leibniz too, if he were to lose Eve. Trying to tell us something there, A&T? He's additionally the only MA pilot that features boss fights in both side and top-down view. Pretty unique too, since his MA can zip around the air, and uses a shield based on the symbol for radioactive material to fight us on foot. The irony being he failed to protect his home, and the weapon that can protect is the same weapon that can take it away. I would almost feel bad for him if he wouldn't stop kicking my chair! Oh wait, wrong game. Also, Leibniz was named after the German philosopher Gottfried Leibniz, both to create a strong impact, and apparently there is a secret reason for choosing that name. Sounds like a mystery for BMZ3, gang! Out of curiosity, I quickly looked up Gottfried Leibniz's history, and found that he was once friends with Sophia, the Electress of Hanover. Sophia and Leibniz, huh? There's probably more to it than that, or I'm completely off base, but I thought that was interesting considering what we know about BMZ3 so far. One more loose thread. Leibniz's support animal is a snake named Zhao, based on Quetzalcoatl from Wings of Medulla, which makes him the natural enemy of Fred the Frog. Fortunately for our good boy, Zhao was left on the cutting room floor for this game. Aw, we'll get him next time. Quite an interesting cast of characters we got for BMZ2, eh? With the announcements of at least a couple of these pilots returning in BMZ3, I can't wait to see more of them since I still feel like our time with them was so short-lived in BMZ2. Now that the introductions are out of the way, let's see them do more stuff. I have levied a lot of praise towards this title throughout the review, so here's a couple of parts that I know everyone hates. Yes, it's time to talk about the two infamous planetoids, C2 and F2. I guess they don't make good number 2s. Well, at least where planetoids are concerned. C2 is a test of your platforming skills outside of the tank. An absolute gauntlet, jumping from ladder to ladder while dodging obstacles. Unfortunately, the god-awful ladder controls from BMZ1 were carried over to 2. 1 does not simply hold up on the D-pad. You have to press up the moment you make contact with the ladder and pray you timed it right. Of course, Jason Glass-Knees Frudnick over here still dies from falling a few pixels. So one mistake is going to force you to do it all over again. That being said, anyone picking up this game now is super lucky. Wanna know why? Because this level's difficulty got nerfed with a patch later on. These flower mutants at the end here used to shoot projectiles everywhere. And at that point, good luck, have fun. As of version 1.2 however, they remain docile. Just standing there, menacingly. Now it's a matter of just not screwing up your jumps. But man, that version 1.0 stage sure was some pure pain. Chances are, this one planetoid was what inspired the hover ability and better ladder controls coming up in BMZ3. Planetoid F2 is less offensive overall, but still a pain. Where's my rocks? Oh, there they are. Bringing back the floating rock puzzle from Planet Fosant, that was already a little jank, except now you have to make your own path forward 100% of the way, only stopping for the occasional checkpoint that you're gonna be glad are there if you get stuck. And chances are you will get yourself soft locked if you aren't careful with your timing. Meanwhile, the rocks will keep wanting to push you off the edge, unless you risk shooting them and potentially doing more damage to yourself. Not too much else to say, just one of those cool ideas on paper concepts that turned out to be kind of a nightmare. Those were the only really bad Planetoids though. The rest I found ranged from just okay to good in quality, with some enjoyable, unique concepts and challenges. Let's wrap this up then with the DLC. EX characters return in BMZ2, although we are down to only 2 of them from BMZ1's 4. No third-party characters this time, but we do have 2 indie reps promoting their banner titles from 2019. Gunvolt's arch-rival Copen, based on his own spin-off title, Gunvolt Chronicles Luminous Avenger X, and Empress from Dragon Marked for Death. Once again, these 2 have been reproduced in BMZ2 faithfully, with all their skills, abilities, and quirks intact. Copen retains his high-flying zippity-zoop gameplay and his LAX EX weapons, split between weapons that you can use in either top-down or side view. That's combined with no fall damage as we come to expect. It's no secret that Copen absolutely destroys this game. He can sequence break and take on the whole game without his tank to do it, which is exactly why I love his run so dang much. Dashing through dungeons Mega Man X style is a lot of fun too. Empress is no slouch either, wielding her sword skills and her one-shot potential Dragonfire powers from her game. She can't sequence break the game as hard as Copen can, but she is a strong melee fighter that makes for a nice change of pace. Basically, if they could do it in their original games, they can do it in BMZ2 just fine. Don't forget their blast counters either. You're likely going to find these 2 campaigns to be much easier than Jason's, but to me, that's the whole point. I love the idea of ripping the game a new one, just for a fun victory lap after all the main game puts you through. Additionally, both characters' MAs got completely redesigned looks. Copen's G Lola and D Attacker for the Empress. They even get their own little soundtracks and stage start animations lifted directly from their own games. BMZ2 may be down 2 characters, but Inti made up for it by going above and beyond for these 2. And you're gonna have a blast no matter which character you pick up. Well, that's all for the BMZ2 DLC. A surprising lack of destroyer mode and multiplayer shenanigans this time. But you know what? Multiplayer was never the focus anyway, and the extra difficulty option wasn't entirely necessary this time either.
It's Kanna time, baby!
Oh.
Okay, everyone! Nice and loud now! Flower!
Oh no. Okay, fine. I guess we'll totally talk about Kanna Racing Simulator. The final vision Inti made true for BMZ2. It's like the spice of life, right? This basically makes the assist mode from BMZ1 into its own arcade shooter minigame. You go through 3 stages set on planet Stranga with the goal of capturing mutants, items, and bugs. And don't forget the clocks for a
Time extension.
all to grow your own different Kanna plants, represented by collectible cards you can view from the gallery. Some of these are definitely making Natsume-san's vision come true.
Mountains.
I'll say that much. The kind of Kanna you get depends on the types of objects you capture, separated into the 3 categories. So multiple playthroughs are required to collect all the Kanna cards. Still, the minigame itself is pretty mindless, and it only takes a few minutes before I felt like I've seen it all and it started to overstay its welcome. So I don't know if the $2 for this thing was worth it. It exists, I guess, if you have that instinct within you for the mountains. The best thing that came out of this is probably just more of a spotlight for Yakupu. Wow, Yakupu actually poops out the fertilizer. Well, that makes sense from a scientific standpoint, but, alright, we are totes moving on. Despite the visionary fan service on display, BeamZ2 took what its predecessor did and went beyond, taking the franchise to new heights, both thematically and in the way it improves upon established concepts in almost every way, with the exception of some things like those ladder controls, oh that's a thing, and introduces new ones to keep things fresh and engaging. I didn't know I needed a Blaster Master Zero sequel before BeamZ2 was shadow dropped, but I can say this is the best one I could have asked for. Watching Inti Creates take the series in an entirely new direction, for better or worse, that's not just a remake, has been one heck of a ride. And I can't wait to see how Blaster Master 03 will conclude the Jason saga. For now, I'm giving Blaster Master 02 a 9 out of 10. From what we've seen of BeamZ3 so far, I intend to find out if that game will be the one to get a near, if not perfect score out of me. Find out next week if it does or not, as I intend to review the final piece of the trilogy. To those of you who stuck around this far, thank you so much for watching. But you know what comes next? Yes, it's time to end off with the all-important spoiler section. This is your official warning. If you have not experienced the ending to Blaster Master 02 before, your mission remains the same. Play it! Otherwise, let's catch up with our heroes as they inch ever closer to their final destination. Upon taking out the dimensional glutton Dig Roller on planet Divido, Stein sends Jason on to the next area, sensing that Eve's condition is worsening, and indeed it is. So we're now at the home stretch to planet Sophia, flying into Area G where we are immediately ambushed by
Vile! What are you doing here?
I'm just here to cause trouble for you. I hate you!
Oh, whoops. Sorry, it's just Leibniz again. He seems pretty dang ticked that Jason is the goody-goody two-shoes hero and that everything goes right for him, unlike Leibniz himself. After the Jason, why does everybody like that guy speech, and a refight with Garuda, guess what's back? Back again. Tell a friend. Yes, you guessed right. Mega Man style in-game boss rushes. My favorite. While we're here, I may as well mention that BeamZ2 has a new variation on the infamous skeleton boss, Cerebos. Oh dear lord, 3 heads? However, it still goes down to 1 full acceleration blast. We didn't get to abuse it in the initial fight, so here we go.
This is for you! Spirit Bomb!
The boss gauntlet culminates into one last showdown with Leibniz. Still feeling pretty jelly, but that's because he's feeling the parallels himself. He couldn't do anything to save his home planet, so how could Jason succeed where he failed? It's here Leibniz warns us of the mutant overlord that ended this man's whole career, Planet G. A mutant so powerful that apparently even Jason won't be able to defeat it. It's hopeless. So Leibniz won't be satisfied with that monster killing Jason. Oh no, he wants to end our mutant blasting career himself. Both as a way to prove himself correct, and perhaps as a final test to see if Jason's naive optimism really can surpass the obstacle that has plagued Leibniz for so long. Something fun to note about Leibniz's fight is he wields both a whip and a shield, drawing parallels with the mutant overlord Goez from the game that started it all. Huh, neat. But nah, I got a whip of my own now too.
I say whip it! Whip it good!
No, I can't lose to X! You underestimated me. I hate that about you!
After that, Leibniz reveals something worrisome. The access tunnel to planet Sophia has already been taken over by Planet G, and the worst will come to pass should we battle it. Why is that? Well, let's find out for ourselves. Holy Unicron! That's no planet, it's an entire mutant! So god dang big that it's capable of one day eating the entire universe for dinner! Even worse, since it has stored up so much energy, Blowing up Planet G is only going to serve to nuke literally everything, even Planet Sophia through the access tunnel. Well shoot, how do we prevent that? Ah, of course, the Gaia system. The system that made this journey possible in the first place is about to save the universe by stomping on Planet G to siphon his energy. Huh, maybe Mario was onto something. Alright, let's put our weight into it this time and finish this! Woohoo! We did it! The universe is... Aw, crap. Here we go again. The dimensional tunnel that was inside Planet G turns into a black hole, sucking up Gaia-Sophia and separating Jason, Eve, and Fred across an unknown sector. Aw, poor guy. It looks like we didn't quite finish the job after all, as Jason is shown having lost a battle with an unseen foe and turned to stone. Eve reflects on all the events that led up to this point, and wishes that they could have spent just a little more time with the other MA pilots they had met throughout their journey. That if they had formed brother bonds with them, then maybe they would have found a way to escape their fate. So, with one last cry for Jason, Eve's remaining energy is used up. Elsewhere, Leibniz intercepts a distress call from planet Earth, requesting Jason and Gaia-Sophia's support as Earth falls under a mutant attack. Leibniz can't help but laugh at the fact that Jason's fate ended up just like his, and now his home planet is doomed too, to add insult to injury, just like what happened to Leibniz. He was right, it really was all for nothing in the end. But at what cost? The pain of his loss and failure still remains, and he knows deep down with Jason gone, no one can take away that pain and avenge Lucia now. And so, with a moment of silence and a fade to black,
Game over, yeah!
That's right, Inti has done it again with BMZ2, having another true ending to unlock. All we got to go on this time is Eve's hint about forging stronger bonds with the other MA pilots. In other words, we must do each of their side quests, such as collecting coins for Gonbei. Hey, just like Iki. Upon completing each quest, Jason receives the emblems representing each MA. Nobody seems to know what these medals do exactly, but with our brother band's force, let's head back to the end and find out what happens. Back inside the black hole, Eve recalls Jason's bravery and how he relentlessly fought for her no matter what. When she first found out about the mutant infection, she kept it a secret until it became obvious she would die, and she could not bear the thought of never seeing Jason again. So she ended up telling him everything and sprung him into action. However, she admits that perhaps she was being too clingy and relying on Jason far too much, due to his positivity being her light. We can definitely see that Eve is having a similar inner struggle that she had in BMZ1, between fulfilling her duties as a support droid, wanting to be independent, and her feelings for Jason all clashing within her mind. She's begun to let Jason take the lead more often since the battle with the mutant core, but perhaps too much. However, this is a turning point for her character, as Eve now has the opportunity to return the favor and save the day for a change. Welcome to the final level, Area Omega. And heck yeah, we got playable Eve, baby! Thanks to her purification powers that conveniently just kicked in. That's kind of sus. She has some surprisingly powerful abilities at her disposal. We pick up a broken blaster rifle belonging to someone other than Jason. I guess this one doesn't react to Eve, but who could this belong to? We soon solve that mystery as
Zero! How do you like being Sigma's puppet? If you're gonna take that B-class hunter's side, then I'll have to destroy you too.
Oh, great. Here we go again. Hey, look! A blue Sophia! Gimme.
Huh?
Ha! Leibniz got ignored. Anyway, turns out this blue Sophia is in fact Nora MA02 Andrea, that we mentioned a while ago. And it belongs to none other than a support droid that introduces herself as Elfie. She and her partner were fighting mutants when they got swept into superdimensional space and encountered the mutant cocoon. A mutant much more powerful than an overlord. It damaged their MA and separated the two. That's when Eve realizes who the broken blaster rifle really belongs to. Upon showing it to Elfie, she does confirm it belonged to her partner, Roddy. Now where have we heard those names before?
Great Scott!
Roddy and Elfie were the offspring of Jason and Eve from Blaster Master Blasting Again. Here in BMZ 2, Elfie even has the same hair accessory as Eve and a similar motif. What kind of time traveling shenanigans is this?
Great Scott!
Well, don't speed up your flux capacitor to 88 miles per hour over this one, Doc. It's unconfirmed if they are still the offspring in the BMZ lore. Elfie greets Eve as a fellow support droid and doesn't appear to recognize her as her mother, or anyone that she knows for that matter. Furthermore, the Andrea itself was originally built by Kane and Jennifer's team, and it has many of the same basic functions as Sophia 3. Whereas in Blasting Again, Roddy and Elfie upgraded the original Sophia III and named the now superior model Sophia J7 after their deceased father. All of that seemingly implies that Elfie and Roddy in this game didn't in fact come from the future. Does that mean these characters are simply a nod to Blasting Again and nothing more? I don't know. As we know by now, Inti doesn't make a habit of merely creating an elaborate nod and calling it a day. Something is up with the fact that Elfie looks like the spitting image of Eve's daughter. But I guess their true role is going to remain a mystery until hopefully BMZ 3 explains it, assuming they ever show up again. Poor Roddy didn't even get a chance to show his face. One last aside. It's kind of fitting that Elfie is a support droid, since it was theorized that Blasting Again Elfie was actually adopted anyway. When Elfie begins to grieve over Roddy's apparent death, Leibniz interjects violently, refusing to believe that, quote, mechanical dolls can be anything like humans. Elfie calls him out, saying it's pretty sad that Leibniz refuses to accept the truth, that Lucia wasn't just some lifeless doll to throw away. She was real, and he lost someone very important on that day. The whole doll idea and taking out his grief on other support droids was just his way of coping with that traumatic past, that immense pain in his heart. He's let those bottled up emotions run wild, but if he were to come to terms with his reality and accept it for what it is, he might finally be able to move on. To prove Elfie's point, she reveals that she in fact passed away as well after repairing Andrea, and is nothing more than a spirit now, asking Leibniz to check his scanner to confirm that there is no life readings to be found. Taken aback by the truth of Elfie's words, and her request not to deny his time with Lucia, or impose his suffering onto someone else, we see a change of heart begin to ignite within Leibniz. He begins by calling Eve by her name for once. Well, that's a start. He goes on to reveal the true nature of the emblems we received from the other MA pilots. They are interplanetary all-purpose markers that can create a wormhole directly to the MAs from anywhere in the universe. Wow, that's even better than the link power of a brother band. Leibniz instructs Eve not to lose those markers until she reunites with Jason before flying off to take care of something. This whole scene here is some pretty dang good character development for Leibniz. Yeah, Leibniz is a big jerk, but it's not for no reason. It's a result of how broken and shattered his heart is after losing his home and Lucia. All he needed was a good influence in Jason and a push in the right direction from Elfie to free him in a sense. And this is the turning point when the player starts to root for Leibniz. Like, man, maybe he's not such a bad guy after all. He's just going to be awkward about lending his support in his own edgelord type of way. He is still that anti-hero rival trope after all. After the makeup, Elfie officially entrusts Eve with Andrea to save Jason, and we're back at it again. As for how Andrea works, Eve puts it more concisely than I can.
Nora, MA02 Andrea. Its basic operations are the same as the Sophia series, but it's equipped with a range of additional modules. A mid-air jump using water pressure, splash booster, and a sub-weapon that can wrap around enemies and create platforms, water bind. It can even move enemies that have been trapped with spark tackle. While Andrea is submerged in clean water, it will recover SP as well. I wonder if the planet Elfie landed on was filled with water.
Oh yeah, water bind is pretty OP. So after using our bubble-encased foes as platforms, collecting more health upgrades since they do not carry over from Gaia-Sophia.
Froggy, is that you? Ah, there's Froggy. We're together again at last, huh? What's up with the tail? Froggy? I don't like the looks of this place. If something happens now, there's no point to my rescuing you. Come, little buddy, time to get a move on.
With the good boy recovered, we can locate Jason and Gaia-Sophia's locations thanks to his abilities as the support animal. Off to the finale we go then. It's time to face the Mutant Cuckoo, Droll Revo. Near it we find Jason Flintstone himself. Thankfully, he's still alive. Phew! That just leaves this tough customer of a mutant. More powerful than anything we've faced before. Perhaps all mutants exist just to send their energy to this thing, as Eve says. That means yeeting bubble blocks at it won't be enough. Our one hope to deal lethal damage is the Acceleration Blast. That has been locked up due to the state of Andrea's frame. But if Eve can override it, and give the blast some extra juice from her purification powers, it might just be enough. Now we just need a diversion. That's where the other MA markers come into play, as the other MA pilots we've met along our journey contacts Eve. It turns out Leibniz had contacted all of them and filled them in on the details. Wow, he actually did something nice for us. What a concept. With the power of friendship on our side then, what precedes is a visually mind-blowing scene that no words that I can muster can do justice for. Thanks to the purification powers of the blast, Jason is officially back in action. And being revived got him a new mugshot too. Epic. But it's not over yet.
So, Andros, you show your true form.
Even our comrades have done their part. Now it's up to Jason and Gaia-Sophia to finish the job. Time for the final boss, Infamous Revo Maestro. A side view remix of the multi-dimensional Overlord with a similar moveset. But it's nothing we can't overcome. Let's give this Maestro a performance he will never forget.
But this is more than just my power! It's everyone's! So I cannot and will not lose!
And with the final blow, Blaster Master 02 is complete. The couple finally arrives at their destination, Planet Sophia. But whether thanks to the changes Eve experienced in superdimensional space, or the purification-infused Excel Blast, Eve has already been cured of her mutant infection before we even reached our goal. One of her eyes has changed colors, and she retains the blue highlights on her hair due to the mutant corrosion. But Eve, being ever the optimist, doesn't mind it because now she can match with Jason. Makes you wonder if Jason had a history with mutant corrosion himself. Either way, shoutouts to the animated mugshots nailing the finality of this scene. After all these two have been through, drawing parallels to the ending of BMZ1, it's Eve's turn to have one more thing to tell Jason. Perhaps this is the moment where they got engaged? At least the engagement ring in BMZ3 seems to suggest it. Man, let's hope they get a good ending next game. Come on, NT. Don't kill her off next game. Hold off on your tragedy fetish for just once in your life. I'm rooting for these two. Our final scene then sees Leibniz once again intercepting the distress call from Earth. Except this time, Leibniz decides to go save Jason's home planet himself, as a way to make Jason jelly right back. But Leibniz was probably in a good mood that day too. With a "Let's go Lucia," what happens next is left up to our imaginations. At least until BMZ3. That last line at the end, however, further serves to show Leibniz's change of heart, proving that he has begun to believe Elfie's words, that Lucia's spirit is still watching over him from the afterlife. A subtle closure for this arc of his character, if you will. And with all that said, we've come to a close on the spoilers section, and Blaster Master 02 at long last. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you all enjoyed the retrospective series so far. Shoutouts to MegaQuint for the help with editing, or these simply would not get out on time. And thanks to Sapphire Stars 11 for playing Eve for a minute at the end there. And of course, all of you for the support, whether it was simply watching the video, being a channel member, or what have you. Stay tuned to ShadowRockZX for more Blaster Master 0, and all things Integrates and Mega Man. I will see you on Planet Sophia as the reversal of fates begins in the finale of the Jason saga, when I review Blaster Master 03. Until then, rock on, and remember, mutant scum never learn.